What illegal thing do you do on a regular basis? When I was a kid, I thought it was normal that we could buy movies the day after they came out from the Chinese lady in the chicken shop. I didn't realize it was a crime until middle school when I told someone my grandma had Avatar on DVD, and they said that was impossible since the movie was still in theaters. During football season, I provide verbal accounts of the game without consent of the NFL. When I was in college, parking was $500 a semester, which I couldn't afford. I simply went to class each day until I got a parking ticket. I went online, paid the $50 fine, but kept the ticket. Every time I would park on campus, I would toss the ticket out onto my windshield so that the parking police thought I was already ticketed. This worked for 2 years, $1,000 worth of parking for $100. And then I came out of class one day to find 2 tickets and note that said, "Nice try." I jaywalk all the time, even though it's illegal. There's something oddly thrilling about crossing the street wherever I want, and I just can't resist it. It's a small act of rebellion that adds a bit of excitement to my day. I often wonder how many people unknowingly cheat on their taxes simply because they're ignorant of what they're supposed to do or pay. With tax laws being so complex and confusing, it's easy to miss something or make a mistake. I imagine there are countless people out there who, without even realizing it, end up underpaying or not reporting something correctly. It's not always intentional. Sometimes it's just a lack of understanding or access to proper guidance. This makes me think about how the system could be more straightforward, so fewer people fall into this trap. I cut my own hair at home, even though I'm technically not registered as a hairdresser under the 1939 Hairdressers Act. It seems a bit outdated to require registration for something so personal, but technically, I'm breaking the law every time I give myself a trim. It's a harmless act, but it's funny to think about how even small things like this can be considered illegal. Downloading music through YouTube to MP3. Wow. Tough to say. I'm generally pretty law-abiding. Great question, though. I guess if I had to pick one thing, though, I'd say murder. I download a new car every other day. I've never shared this with anyone before, but back when I was 15 in 1979, I stole a Ford Mustang in my neighborhood. It was a hot summer night, and as I walked home from a friend's house, I noticed this cool Mustang with a single key sticking out of the driver's door lock. I had always admired that car and couldn't resist the urge to take it for a spin. So after making sure no one was around, I hopped in and drove off. The car was super nice and I spent hours driving around the valley in San Bernardino. Knowing the owner would probably never notice, I returned the car to its spot around 4 a.m., missing about a third of a tank of gas. I kept the key, figuring they'd just think they misplaced it. A couple of weeks later, I did it again. This time, the gas tank was almost empty, so I had to refill it before returning the car. A week later, I took it out for a third time, and this time, I drove it up to Lake Arrowhead because I couldn't resist the idea of driving it on mountain roads. It was an absolute blast until I stopped at a gas station and ran into one of my older brother's friends. He knew I was only 15 and didn't have a license, let alone a vintage sports car. I can't remember the lies I told him, but I knew I was in serious trouble. I rushed back to San Bernardino, filled the tank at a convenience store, and snuck the car back into the driveway. Before leaving, I scribbled a thank you note, telling them how much I loved their car and suggesting they shouldn't leave the key in the door overnight. I even mentioned that I filled the tank for them. Thanks. Oh, and my brother's friend. He never said a word to anyone about seeing me. I let my donkey sleep in the bathtub, which is actually illegal in Arizona. It's a strange law, but I can't resist letting my donkey have a cozy spot to rest. Nice try, FBI. I regularly download movies from pirated sites and use pirated software, fully aware that it's illegal. It's become so easy to access anything online that the temptation is hard to resist. The cost of buying every movie or software I want is just too high, so I often turn to these sites. I know the risks, from potential malware to the legal consequences, but the convenience and savings are hard to ignore. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, knowing I'm breaking the law every time I click that download button, but it's become a routine part of my digital life. Unfortunately, I've struggled with addiction and have done a lot of drugs, which led me down a dark path filled with criminal activities. At my lowest point, I started a shoplifting ring in my city, which eventually got me caught and arrested. I spent time in jail and I even prostituted myself for drugs and money. The shame I feel from those days is overwhelming, and there are times when I really hate myself for the things I did. But I'm proud to say that I've been clean for 2 years now, and my recovery is my top priority. Every day I work hard to stay on this path and leave that dark chapter of my life behind. Speeding. I buy organic veggies but ring them up as non-organic at the self-checkout. It's a small act of dishonesty, but I can't resist saving a few bucks. I know it's technically stealing, but the price difference adds up, and I justify it by telling myself that it's just vegetables. Still, there's always a bit of guilt when I do it, knowing it's wrong. In The Sims, I often use cheat codes like Kaching or Rosebud to give my characters extra money and avoid financial struggles. It's a harmless way to make the game more enjoyable, but I know it's technically cheating. Instead of working hard to build wealth in the game, I take the shortcut to focus on other aspects of gameplay. It's just too tempting to resist, especially when I want my Sims to live their best lives without the stress of making ends meet. Drugs. I pick up bones out of the woods even though I've heard it's illegal. Honestly, I don't care. There's something fascinating about finding and collecting them, and it's become a bit of a hobby for me. The fact that it's against the law doesn't really bother me, as I see it as a harmless activity. Here it goes. I sped. I followed too closely. I ran a stop sign and almost hit a Chevy. Then, I sped some more. I failed to yield at a crosswalk, changed lanes at an intersection and didn't signal while doing so. To top it off, I ran a red light while speeding. It's a laundry list of reckless driving habits that I'm not proud of, but it's the truth. Every time I get behind the wheel, I know I'm breaking the rules, and yet I keep pushing my luck. It's like I'm always in a rush, and the rules of the road just get in the way. I know it's dangerous, and I've had a few close calls, but I can't seem to slow down and drive responsibly. Also, piracy and anabolic steroids. I always hide snacks in my jacket when I go to the movies. It's technically against the rules, but the prices at the concession stand are just too high. Sneaking in my own treats has become a little tradition, and I can't resist the satisfaction of enjoying my favourite snacks without paying a fortune. When I was younger, my brother and I were driving down the road when we spotted a raccoon that had been hit by a car. We pulled over to see if it was still alive, but unfortunately it wasn't. However, there was a baby raccoon cuddling up to it, trying to find comfort. We felt so bad for the little guy that we decided to take him in. He ended up living with us for about 14 years until he passed away. Apparently, it's illegal to own a raccoon without a license, but raccoons typically only live around 3 years in the wild. So I like to think we gave him a pretty good life, despite the legalities. We lived in a small town and often took him on walks to the park, where he loved interacting with people. He even sat on my shoulder during a local festival parade. We named him Rocky, and he became a beloved member of our family. R.I.P. Rocky, you were a wonderful companion and brought so much joy to our lives. Update. For anyone curious, I posted videos of him on my profile. Nothing, officer. I use Q-tips to clean inside my ear. Drops Q-tip shaped mic. I don't always come to a complete stop at a stop sign. Tossing squirrels down people's pants for gambling purposes. Sail the high seas. I exceed the speed limit 80% of the time I'm behind the wheel. Not because I like driving fast, but because I hate driving. I just want to get it over with. Teleporters can't come soon enough. I downloaded movies from torrent all the time. And TV show. I'm still paying for Netflix, Crunchyroll, Apple TV+, Prime Video, Max and Disney+. But I like to watch the content in my own terms and in a unified UI and not have to figure different apps for each piece of content. So I have a torrent, Plex setup, and I watch what I want, when I want. I have learned so much illegal shit today. Can't wait to use my newfound wisdom. I drove a car without a title, registration or insurance for about 6 years. Going anywhere was constant anxiety of being pulled over. Glad those days are over. In 94s, I had an 87 Toyota Celica in black. It was a really nice car when I bought it, but it had a missing hubcap. Not knowing where to get a replacement, I stole a hubcap from another Celica in my neighborhood. I was dumb and 17-yo. I drove that car for 2 years until I got into an accident. Since I no longer needed the hubcap, I put it back on the car I stole it from 2 years earlier. I always wondered what the owner thought about it. Smoking weed. It's illegal here, but it's a regular thing for me. There's a stop sign near my house that I blow through all the time or just do a rolling stop because it's a wide-open 3-way intersection and you can clearly see for like half a mile in every direction that there are no cars or pedestrians around. It is almost impossible to not violate multiple laws while driving. I was a police officer in the early 90s, and when I was in the academy, we had to learn all the traffic laws. One of the instructors said, "You really need to learn traffic laws because there are so many of them that you can always articulate probable cause to stop someone while they're driving." For instance, in Texas, it's illegal to not stop before crossing a sidewalk when leaving a parking lot. Texas Transportation Code, Section 545-256. I never knew that, and it blew me away. So when you leave the gas station parking lot, if you don't come to stop before you cross the sidewalk, boom, probable cause for a stop. You can get stopped even if you come to a complete stop at a stop sign or traffic light, but don't stop at the designated point. The stop line if present, crosswalk or before your car crosses the stop sign. Texas Transportation Code, Section 544-010. So if your car noses past the stop sign but you completely stop, boom, probable cause for a stop. You have to signal 100 feet before you change lanes. Texas Transportation Code, Section 545.104. So if you hit your blinker and immediately change lanes, boom, probable cause to stop. There is all sorts of insane stuff that literally no one except police officers really remember. Now, police don't generally stop folks for that kind of stuff, unless they're looking for probable cause, but the laws are there. I knew an officer who stopped someone because he said that their wipers were not keeping their windshield clear. A motor vehicle shall be equipped with a device that is operated or controlled by the operator of the vehicle, and that cleans moisture from the windshield. Texas Transportation Code, Section 547.603. Boom, probable cause for a stop. Now multiply that insane legal detail at the city, county, state, and federal level. And it is literally impossible to not violate some laws every day. When students come in looking for a copy of a textbook in the library because they can't afford it in the bookstore, I pirate a digital copy, if it for them if I can. Most textbooks are written by lazy professors who get together to publish for tenure. The new editions are so they don't have to work hard to republish, and they're almost always the same damn book with accent colours changed. Fuck that bullshit. Here's a PDF. Learn from it. Improve your mind. Yeah, my dad used to beat me when my friends would burn CDs for me, thinking that the FBI would raid our house for $3 burned CDs of Blink-182 and Incubus and etc. Is pirating still illegal, considering streaming services are not letting us keep the things we buy on them? Magic mushrooms every 6 weeks keep my suicidal thoughts away, also help me rethink my life choices in a positive way. Imo, it's a crime that those are illegal. Edit. For first-time users, I'd recommend grabbing a person you deeply trust, which has a good connection to his or her inner child, spirituality. Or with other words, is emotional in line with his/her herself. My favorite location are the local woods. Nature has so many wonders to offer which heal your spirit. Much love to anyone reading. I ran with scissors. Not really regular, but once in a while. Self-checkouts sometimes don't pick up on barcodes. Then, if there's literally no employees around to help, you bet your ass I'm sticking that item in my bag and walking out. I'm not waiting on them to actually do their jobs. It's only illegal if I get caught. And the chances of getting caught go up exponentially with each person being told. So I'm not telling this sub for sure. I'd like to plead the second the right to arm bears. I live in Canada. Basically, everything is illegal, just not prosecuted. Here are a list of illegal things I've done. Moving a bird's nest, even an empty one in the middle of the winter. Moving wood or anything that falls from a tree. Trimming a tree. Cutting down a tree. Having or operating a BB gun. Picking a flower. Pumping water from your flooded property into a drain. Having a yard sale. Selling anything intended for consumption without a permit. Lemonade stand, hot dog stand, etc. Parking your car. Speeding. Changing lanes close to an intersection. Rolling stops at stop signs. Carrying your own alcoholic drink from one place to another, like relocating from the bar to a table. I run this red light at the bottom of the hill by my house. The light is well under 40 feet from the stop line and impossible to see from the vehicle, even my truck, which is higher up. So at night, when no one is around, I just treat it like a stop sign. Touch myself. That shit must be illegal because no one else does it, lol. I'm married outside of my race and we own a home against our racist CCNRs. I commit menacing, the act of threatening to hurt or kill somebody, on a daily basis. I mostly just do it as a joke towards my friend, but I still technically commit it. I occasionally let my parking meter expire if I'm running a few minutes late, especially if there's no risk of a ticket. It's a minor infraction, but I try to be mindful of it. I understand that laws are in place for a reason, but sometimes life gets in the way, and we end up bending the rules a bit. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these wild and crazy stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let us know in the comments if you've ever done something a little illegal that you're willing to share. No judgments here. See you in the next video.